And, of course, it's just, snow is going to be here eventually. It's just a beautiful place to visit in the wintertime. So we appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, Bob.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it, too. And, if the snow does fall, Phil, people can always go out to the Winter Sports Complex out at Muskegon State Park. There's a lot of fun activities for families and individuals to do out there, too.
Good deal. I'm glad you mentioned that. Visit Muskegon.org. Visit Muskegon.org. He's Bob Lukens with the Muskegon County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thank you for your time, Bob.
Thanks very much, Phil.
And you've been listening to Clearly Community here on this Clear Channel station. We'll have more for you again next week.
Clearly Community is a public affairs program of Clear Channel Media and Entertainment.
Clearly Community is brought to you by Michigan Credit Unions. Find out more about small business lending by contacting your local credit union or by going to creditunionlink.org today.
Listen again next week at this time for another segment of Clearly Community right here on your favorite Clear Channel Media and Entertainment radio station.
Just as the seasons change, so do your finances. With an eye on the future, Service One Federal Credit Union is always ready to help. From a basic checking account, loan information, free online banking, and bill pay, Service One is here to make sure your accounts reflect the seasons of your life. Find out more at Service One Federal Credit Union on Sherman Boulevard and on the corner of Harvey and East Wind Drive, 1 block south of the Lakes Mall.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. President Obama is starting his tour of Southeast Asia today. The first stop, Thailand.
Let me say, Sawadee Krap. I will say that the Prime Minister's English is much better than my Thai.
The president praising Thailand for supporting democracy in Burma, which he'll also visit along with Cambodia. Israeli troops poised at the Gaza border as Israel and Hamas continue to trade rocket fire.
There are negotiations going on between the Egyptians, some Arab leaders, and then also Hamas and Islamic Jihad who control the Gaza Strip about a possible ceasefire. And Israel is effectively saying you got 24 or 36 hours to bring this ceasefire talks to the table and have a deal, or we go in on the ground.
Fox's Leland Vittert. Officials in Midland, Texas say a parade float with wounded veterans began crossing railroad tracks despite warning signals. The float was hit by a freight train, killing 4. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast. For today, a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high close to 55. Southeast winds 5 to 10. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 37. Southeast winds still at 5 to 10. Tomorrow, overcast skies with a high of 54. And once again, southeast winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Clouds to start off Tuesday, then sunshine later on, a high of 51. And then partly cloudy on Wednesday with a high of 53. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
And good morning, West Michigan and Muskegon. This is EyeOnMuskegon, and I'm Jim Riley here in Muskegon's Clear Channel studios with engineer-producer Brian Thomas. Oscar is still working out his health issues, and we'll continue to send out our best wishes to Oscar and his family. Get well soon, buddy. Everyone's got to be aware that your health is arguably the greatest gift you can get. We've all got to work on that. So Oscar is working successfully so far. Hey, today, though, we've got 2 gentlemen who may seem to be political polar opposites sitting here with me. But are they really on different sides of the political universe? With me this morning is recent candidate for Muskegon County Treasurer and current chairman of the Muskegon Tea Party, Eric Rodoff, and another past candidate for various elective offices, and a member of Occupy Muskegon, Matt Crehan. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning to you all. And we've got, of course, Brian Thomas over there is going to be chirping in as he's so inclined.
And good morning.
And good morning. Hey, I was going to go elsewhere, but I realized that we've got such a full plate here. I want to focus on you guys, and we'll just drift as time goes. But you've both got organizations, the Tea Party, which is nationally known as being a right-of-center organization. It's national, and, of course, we have a local, fairly active Tea Party here in Muskegon. And Occupy Wall Street, and its offshoots, and the one here that is here in Muskegon is called Occupy Muskegon, which is known to be certainly left of center. So it would seem that the two of you would have opposite opinions on almost every political issue that's out there, and I want to address the specifics as to what your organizations stand for and how you differ. But what I'd really like to start with is, and maybe I'll start with Eric. We've got the Muskegon Tea Party. It's been fairly well organized in Muskegon. It meets once a month. And maybe you can tell me, give me a quick overview. Why is there a Muskegon Tea Party? Needless to say, if everything was going wonderfully in Michigan and in the United States and in Muskegon County, we wouldn't have a need for an organization that was politically oriented to affect change. So why is there a Muskegon Tea Party?
Well, the Muskegon Tea Party was founded in order to help control the fiscal spending of the local government. The biggest problem that we had was the government was intruding on us and spending lots of money trying to take care of us rather than having personal responsibility.
Now, when you say local government, you mean the county government and the city and township governments?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, also state and federal as well.
Okay, nationally. Any kind of governmental spending. That would include school systems, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because we were upset with the spending, primarily it started with the health care, but with all government intrusion, we got together and we agreed that fiscal problems was what we wanted to focus on, to leave out a lot of the social issues, but all focus on the fiscal. And then we got together and tried to implement change.
Okay, and one of those ways to implement change was that the Muskegon Tea Party had actually a very full slate of candidates in this last set of elections. We had a primary candidate, and we had county commission candidates, and we had yourself running for treasurer. And while we didn't have some of the other offices, for instance, Cindy Fairfield, who was running as a county clerk, she ran as a Republican. She was not a Tea Party candidate, but you've got political aspirations within the party to elect folks. You've got political aspirations in order to affect change. What's the next step? Unfortunately, we didn't win any elections. So what's the next step?
Well, the next step is to work at keeping our current elected officials accountable for what they do. Sunlight is the best disinfectant for anything that's going on.
One of my favorite phrases, by the way.
And that's what we'll be focusing on. We'll be focusing on pointing out everything that the government is doing contrary to what we wish.
I'm going to give you a little bit of a compliment here. Actually, it's a great compliment because you very specifically went out and challenged the current county treasurer, Tony Malaziotis, on the way that he was managing the what they call the land bank. And there was other things that are affiliated with it. I know that I'm planning on a show of having you get far more greater detail on this, but there are an awful lot of things about this land bank that if the average person knew about them, they would be outraged. And I thank you for researching it. Actually, I thought you did quite well in the election, given the fact that this was clearly a Democrat tsunami in our county. We are surrounded by Republican counties, but in this county it was a Democrat tsunami, and you did quite well. So thank you for that. Well, we'll come back to you, Matt. You're sitting here in theory from the opposite side of the spectrum. Occupy Muskegon has certainly made it clear over the last couple of years that they were supportive of the National Occupy Wall Street organization. There was a group that was out in tents. I guess it was the winter, about a year ago, actually, was it not? And so explain to me what Occupy Muskegon is here in Muskegon as we sit today in November 2012.
Well, fortunately, Occupy Muskegon has only been out in tents once, and they said it was exceptionally cold, and they decided that instead of sitting out in tents in Hackley Park and various locations, they would go ahead and put a little bit more brain power into things and decide how we can successfully effectuate change. And I find it interesting that both of our groups get these labels because labels can be awfully, awfully misleading. I take a look at both groups and I see two sets of people that are fed up with the way the power structure operates, both government and then the power structure that controls the government. We take a look at what we're trying to do on a local basis and analyze things from a point of, can we be successful at this? If we're not going to be successful at taking a project on and trying to change it, then we're not going to go ahead and take the project on.
Okay. Now, Eric had gotten somewhat specific in the sense that we're not happy about the fiscal efforts of our elected leaders. We think, in a nutshell, we think that they're spending more money than they ought to, and clearly, by any definition, they're spending more money than they have. They're out now borrowing. So that is a kind of a singular focus for Muskegon's Tea Party. Is there a singular focus for Occupy Muskegon?
Actually, we've got several things we're working on right now. The county has been chomping at the bit to build a new jail. And we take a look at the jail on a detailed analytical standpoint and say, okay, first of all, who actually has to be in jail? Who's a clear and present danger to the community? Those are the people that we want in jail. There's numerous people sitting in jail right now that are no threat to anybody, but for some reason they've run afoul of some statute. They might have done that, but we're not interested in having them in jail for it.
So this is okay. The fact that you bring this up first, is this arguably at this point the main issue for Occupy Muskegon?
No. There's several issues that we're working on right now.
Give me some other ones.
The jail is one of them, and we have a problem with the Sappy property. Here's a good example of what's going wrong with government and the philosophical basis for our group. Muskegon just had something on the ballot to rezone Sappy, city of Muskegon.
Yes.
It passed in every precinct by a substantial margin. Now, that is the will of the people. They don't want Sappy to be an industrial waste site anymore. And essentially, if you're going to have an industrial piece of real estate, unfortunately, unless it's a really clean industry, you're going to have some waste there, and it's going to be seeping into the ground. And considering the fact that Sappy is lakefront property, it's going to be seeping into the lake and getting into the fish.
Okay, so I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I want to get moving on to some of the other ones because I want to come back to some specific issues. But okay, the Muskegon or Occupy Muskegon's interested at this point in, I guess, stopping the building of the jail or I guess I'm a little fuzzy on that.
Right now they have a jail space for about 400 people. And to give you a little bit of background, when I ran for county commissioner in 1990, one of the platforms that I ran on was that, yes, we need more jail space. Well, at the time, the jail housed about 250 people, and since then they got it up to 400. That's enough jail space. Now they're talking 528, and they're also talking, I don't know where they get the number 528 from, if they just pulled it out of a hat or what, but then they also talk about room to expand that. Now, we don't have that kind of crime in Muskegon County, which is fortunate. We've got a big enough jail, 250 to 400 beds. That's a pretty hefty increase. So what you have to take a look at with the jail is that there's very, very few crimes, misdemeanor crimes, and that's what the jail primarily houses other than those awaiting felony trials that can't post bond. If you're sentenced for a misdemeanor crime, the statutes don't mandate jail. It's usually a fine and or jail time. So if a little common sense comes to bear, there's no point in having anybody in jail for a nonviolent crime where they're not a threat to the public. If all they did was violate a statute and didn't hurt you or me, they shouldn't be there to begin with.
All right, so let's go back then to the two, because this seems to me, and I hope that we get more people involved in your two organizations, because you both seem, Eric, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but most of the Tea Party folks that I've spoken with are not for the spending of a new jail, but in good measure because of the significant cost involved, anywhere between 25 and 50, or I'm even hearing now $60 million to build a new jail. So your opposition, or the opposition from the right, tends to be because of the cost. We don't have additional monies for it. And here we have on the left, you're against the jail. generally speaking, but not because of the cost, but primarily because of the fact that you think that already the jail is too filled with people who should not be in jail, that alternative sentencing and other things could be involved to reduce the number of people that we move from being citizens to being prisoners. Am I correct in that kind of analysis?
Well, with us, it's a practical matter as far as who belongs in jail, but it's also the fiscal matter, because one thing that people need to realize is that the more money government takes out of your pocket, the less freedom you have. A slave is nothing more than somebody that's taxed at 100% of his income or 100% of his productive capabilities. So the more money that's taken out of your pocket and forced into a government till means you have less and less freedom. And that's something we're definitely opposed to.
Okay, now I know that's something that Eric would agree with, and that's certainly something that I agree with. I'm not so sure that that is something that most of certainly the Occupy Wall Street people would agree with, and I'm wondering now about the Occupy Muskegon, because many of the national organization, the Occupy Wall Street folks, are demanding increased government spending for any number of different reasons. They've got all sorts of programs and things of that sort that they feel are necessary to increase government spending and increase government control. Is this a group that generally, and by group I mean Occupy Muskegon, that generally buys into your philosophy, which is frighteningly almost identical to mine, in that government control and taking more and more out of the pockets of workers is wrong?
It is wrong.
But how about the rest of your group? Are you an anomaly in this group?
No, not at all. Here's a couple other things. We're sappy. We don't like the idea of having the site polluted any further than it is right now. We want it to go back the other way and have it cleaned up. There's another site it's called Burgess Norton. It's right around the Getty Street and Nims Avenue area. And there's a neighborhood there that has their groundwater that's been polluted by that company. And there are some valid things that government should be doing, and essentially it should protect us from those things. It should protect us from things like Sappy and Burgess Norton from happening to begin with. Hooker Chemical I can throw in, too. Who could forget that lives in Muskegon?
Certainly.
And once it happens, now you've got to go ahead and punish the wrongdoers. So take a look and ask yourself the question, is there a victim? And a victim is a human being. It has a name. It's not oftentimes the legislature is fond of saying, well, the victim is society. No, I'm sorry. The victim has to be a living, breathing person that you can put a name on, that can come to testify in court that, yes, I've been damaged because Hooker Chemical has dumped X number of toxic pollutants into White Lake.
Well, Eric, now you've got, again, from the Occupy, or from the Muskegon Tea Party side, is that an issue that's of interest, or has been brought up, or is it people anxious to get involved in that particular issue? Locally here,
most Tea Party members aren't anxious in getting involved in that. We believe more in personal responsibility and company responsibility. It's not, and the government forcing their views on people is something that we don't really agree with.
Well, I would just add to that as far as the environmental changes and environmental violations are concerned, we've got statewide any number of thousands of people who are working for the state to keep the environment in good shape and to keep corporations doing the right thing. And certainly nationally, we see without any question, huge, very powerful governmental intervention. My question's always been, would it make more sense, rather than going after a particular, let's say Sappy, for instance, or whatever? Sappy isn't violating any rule, or not Sappy, but the people who currently own Sappy, and this Burgess Norton situation, are they in fact violating laws? Because I think all of us would agree, if they're violating a current law, that in fact we ought to be enforcing that law. But before I give you a chance to answer that, we're going to have to take a break. So we will be back shortly with the polar opposites this morning at Eye on Muskegon.
Here where it all began, with the roots of soul on iHeartRadio.
Do you like good music?
The icons of R&B, from Aretha to Stevie on one incredible station. James Brown, Al Green, Otis Redding, Sly and the Family Stone, The Drifters, and of course, Motown. Check out the Roots of Soul on iHeartRadio or at iHeartRadio.com.
I got a real big problem with television.
How's that?
Too much great stuff on TV, and my DVR can't store it all. So I'm writing angry letters to the TV people.
Why don't you just get Dish? Their HD DVR, the Hopper, lets you record up to 2,000 hours of shows, even if they're on at the same time.
Oh, yeah?
And that's not all. You can also play back all your favorite shows in up to 4 different rooms of the house at the same time.
So I can record all of our favorite shows?
Yep.
And watch all my favorite shows whenever I want?
Yep.
In any room?
Yep.
So what am I going to do with all these stamps?
You could write a happy letter to Dish.
Dear Dish, thanks to you, I have a brand new stamp collection.
Store 2,000 hours of your favorite shows with the Hopper from Dish. Visit Dish.com to learn more today. Limited time offer subject to change without notice. Hopper available with qualifying HD packages. Hardware and programming sold separately. Other restrictions apply. Visit Dish.com for details.
Winter is right around the corner, and it's Warren Miller time. This is Johnny Mosley, and it's time to get tickets to Warren Miller's 63rd ski and snowboard film, Flow State, where the mountain meets the mind. Enter Warren Miller's Flow State with winter's finest athletes and reach the top of the world's most striking peaks in Austria, Japan, Switzerland, Alaska, and beyond. But you won't catch ski or snowboard action of this magnitude anywhere else. So get in the zone and buy your Warren Miller tickets today. Tickets are on sale now. Get them before they're gone. Check WarrenMiller.com for information.
MC Sports and Rock 101.7 bring Warren Miller's Flow State to the Frauenthal Theater Saturday, November 24th at 8 p.m. Attendees get a free lift ticket from Timber Ridge and a chance to win ski gear from MC Sports and trips to Michigan's best resorts. Tickets are on sale now at the Frauenthal Ticket Office, MC Sports, or charge online at startickets.com.
Neon, day glow, flashing lights, special effects. Today's world puts our sense of sight on overload. Luckily, there are places we can go to refocus our senses. Our national wildlife refuges. It's a wonder how much you'll see once all the distractions fade away. You may see a lone eagle soaring past massive snow-capped mountains, or a great horned owl perched stoically on a branch nearby. You may see the furry face of a baby sea otter curiously poking its head out of the dark blue sea, or ancient rocks shaped by centuries of wind. When you see these things, you're seeing the world the way we found it. With over 500 refuges across America, you don't have to go far to make a special connection with nature. Learn more at fws.gov/refuges. That's fws.gov/refuges.
The Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Well, you dadgum government.
And Muskegon, we are back with the Occupy Muskegon folks, Matt Crehan, and the Muskegon Tea Party chairman, Eric Rodoff. And I'm, of course, Jim Riley, and we got Brian Thomas always running the board. Before the break, I asked a question about, from the environmental standpoint, I think most conservatives would agree that we certainly care about the environment, and we have any number of, probably millions of, certainly hundreds of thousands of environmental regulations and laws and rulings and proposals and everything else out there. And if, in fact, there are issues like Sappi or the Sappi property or Burgess Norton or some other issues out there, would it not make more sense to be putting pressure on the government to enforce the laws that are already in place? Or do you think that new laws need to be in place? And I'll let you, Matt, jump on that one first.
Well, actually, you've got laws in place, and that's really what needs to be done, is you just enforce them and use a little bit of common sense in the process. And what people didn't realize that Sappi's been around for, it used to be SD Warren, of course, and it's been around for over 100 years. Burgess Norton was a company that has been around for decades. At the time these companies were doing what they were doing, nobody paid a lot of attention to what that was doing to the environment. Now we become more environmentally conscious, and I think it's just common sense that if you have a body of water that you're going to benefit from by drinking, by getting the fish from, you've got to go ahead and keep it as clean as possible. So when you don't do that, you have water that's not good for you, you have fish that you shouldn't be eating, and in a case of Sappi, we're just saying, look, we know it's polluted, we don't want it to get any worse, and now that Sappi's gone, what's the most practical use for the site? Well, obviously the most practical use is waterfront marine. That's why the citizens voted for waterfront marine zoning. The owner of the site right now is in the process of dismantling it, so the industrial use essentially will be gone. There is a deep water port there, and there probably could be some use made of that would be something that would be business related. But we're just looking at it from the point of, look, just keep this thing clean. Don't do anything to go ahead and expand the pollution on it, and everything should work out fine. We met with the SOS group this summer.
Save Our Shore.
Right, Save Our Shoreline.
All right.
And their attitude was, look, we all know it's going to go to waterfront recreation, waterfront marine, and that's where it's headed. It's going to take a while to get there. Let's just get there in a smooth and as clean a way as possible.
All right, so you're combining with the Save Our Shoreline folks and any others, but you're at this point then, your pressure really was initially exerted to get this issue on the ballot as a referendum for the city of Muskegon, along with the Save Our Shoreline and others. I mean, again, you saw an issue that was important to you. You wanted to effect change, and this is how you got it done. Am I correct on this?
The way you effectuate change is educate people. And
okay, but you still have to get the politicians to put something on the ballot, or you need to do something like we had with these 6 proposals, get signatures.
The politicians didn't put the Sappi rezoning on the ballot.
How did it get on the ballot?
A gentleman by the name of Larry Page went out and got signatures and put it on the ballot.
Oh, so it was very much like the 6 proposals.
It's something that this is where people are losing sight of something. The individual citizen has a lot more power than they think if they go ahead, do the research, come up with a plan, know what they're doing, and go effectuate the plan.
You know, I'll just add my little back and forth to this because, as many of you who listen to this radio show know, that I, along with the help of Attorney David Wells and some others, did sue the County of Muskegon Board of Commissioners and for violations of Freedom of Information Act and Open Meetings Act, and we were able to win and get a compensatory award that only covered our attorney fees, but we did win, and that uncovered the Brookhaven fiasco, which sadly continues to this day. Unabated, but at least now we know a little bit more about it. So there is power out there, and I think one of the benefits to both of your organizations is the opportunity of folks to get together and say, wait a minute, I'm unhappy with this particular issue X. How do we go about trying to get it fixed? And Eric, we're talking about environmental issues here. My reading is that the Tea Party isn't, at least our local Tea Party, isn't really tremendously interested in that particular issue. How about something specific? Because you did talk about overspending, the power that our electeds have.
Well, yeah. I mean, as long as the company is following the laws, that's all we care about on that side of it. The bigger problem is simply the overspending of just the government overspending, doing buses that aren't very well used, and spending money on everything else in order to take away the personal responsibility.
You know, we got a break coming up here, but I want to come back, and when we come back, let's talk about overspending on buses that people aren't using, because that's a big issue. So we'll take a break at the top of the hour for news, and we'll be right back.
Holland Hydroponic Outlet has it all. Complete light systems, hydroponics, ventilation, nutrients, and soil in Holland, Grand Haven, and South Haven. Check out Torched Glass Art Studio next to the Holland store, creating one-of-a-kind glass pipes.
Hunters, take aim on huge savings at Factory Surplus Sales. Low factory surplus prices on Scentlock, Walls, Muck, Lacrosse, Carhartt, and more. Plus, Factory Surplus Sales has fall apparel for the entire family. Factory Surplus Sales in Montague.
I knew I had a problem.
I tried counting calories, eating and eating.
Nobody else could possibly understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
And on the corner of Harvey and East Wind Drive, 1 block south of the Lakes Mall.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090, WKBC Muskegon, and heard 24 hours a day.
Have you ever dreamed of working for yourself, owning your own business, and having the freedom to work when you want? We're the marketing arm of a $3 billion energy company, immediately looking to find a few entrepreneurs or business owners who can recognize a great opportunity. Rarely are there offerings like this to make a minimal investment with the ability to create significant earnings and wealth. Learn more about becoming a part of our team at ejobswestmichigan.com. We provide the training and support to help you succeed. What are you waiting for? ejobswestmichigan.com.
The Talkin' Muskegon program can now be heard live every morning, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on News Talk 1090. This is John Van White.
And Brian Worsham. We will focus on community events, news, weather, and sports. We'll also bring you traffic updates, weekly segments like the movies with Ron Van Timmeren, the Biker Report, and Lumberjacks. This is Talkin' Muskegon right here, 8 to 9 a.m. on the Talk of Muskegon, News Talk 1090.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast. For today, a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high close to 55. Southeast winds 5 to 10. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 37. Southeast winds still at 5 to 10. Tomorrow, overcast skies with a high of 54. And once again, southeast winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Clouds to start off Tuesday, then sunshine later on, a high of 51. And then partly cloudy on Wednesday with a high of 53. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
A message from Orlando Bloom, Liam Neeson, Lawrence Fishburne, Salma Hayek, and Taya Leone.
24,000 children die every day from preventable causes.
Like not getting enough food or medicine.
Or clean, safe water to drink.
But we are gaining ground. A generation ago, twice as many children were dying.
Still, 24,000 every day?
I believe.
I believe.
I believe that number should be 0.
Believe in zero.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
Of all, it's free. Just log on to iHeartRadio.com, online, on your phone, and your Kindle Fire.
News Talk 1090 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government.
Dadgum government. This is Eye on Muskegon talking about that dadgum government. My name is Jim Riley. I'm here with Matt Crehan from the Occupy Muskegon Group and Eric Rodoff from the Muskegon Tea Party, and our board operator, Brian Thomas, with us. Just before the break, Eric had mentioned something about the Tea Party's interest in bus purchases that Muskegon County seems to be doing every few months. Well, what's your problem with buses? People need buses. They like buses. Buses are nice, according to a lot of folks.
Well, if buses are well used, there isn't a problem with it. But you're taking tax dollars in order to subsidize the use of buses. In particular, they're talking about trying to expand it out into the rural areas. And most people that live out in the country, we know we have to deal with it. I mean, where I live, you have to have a car in order to live. If you don't have a car or if you can't drive, you have to move in the city. And we don't expect to have a bus come by to see whether or not we need to go into town.
Okay, but there are an awful lot of folks who are supporting the expansion of the Muskegon area transit system, which is our bus system here in Muskegon County. You guys on the right are being accused of being tightwads and not wanting to provide governmental services that are necessary for those folks. Maybe someone lives out there, they've got a car that's broken down or whatever. It seems to me, at least from the side of the people who support these buses, that there's tremendous support in among the citizenry, certainly among the voters in Muskegon, because every person who has been voting all these years for buses has been reelected, right?
Just because a person has been reelected because they've done the buses doesn't mean that the people support them.
Actually, that isn't true, by the way. We've got 5 county commissioners who lost from the 11 who lost elections. So voting for buses, the bus expansion, is not a guaranteed reelection. But I just threw that out there. All right. Well, I would agree with you in total. As a matter of fact, the county commissioners in their single meeting of this most recent week did vote to buy from the Holland transportation system 4 smaller buses. The questions of what are these going to be used for were once again not answered in any understandable manner, except for the vague, well, we're going to be using them for the expansion of what they call Phase 2, which is massive expansion of the county employees with all their pay and benefits and free dental and free vision and free medical. It begins on the moment of retirement, by the way. And I would imagine that these buses will have a far lower occupancy rate than the current buses. And one of my earlier shows that I did last year, I spent a whole week driving around in the MAT system. I started in Norton Shores. I went all the way out to the community college. I went downtown and went out to all sorts of different routes. And for most of the time, it was me and the bus driver and maybe 1 or 2 other people. There was, I think the most that I ever saw on the bus might have been 6 or 7 people. And I started early in the morning on a couple of days, and I went into the afternoon. And our buses don't just have the dark glass in the buses for environmental reasons. I would suspect that they have those and I'm not joking about this. I think that they have the dark glass so that you can't see how truly empty these are. I've said this before, but I would like to bring it up. I ski out in Colorado quite often, and a very ritzy place, Aspen, Colorado, has a bus system, and it's a necessary bus system, as any ski resort does, because people fly out, they don't have vehicles, they've got to get from their condos and their apartments and hotels to the slopes. So these buses are, of course, filled. They're just packed all the time. But there are some houses and people who live in these communities who want to rent their houses or their condos out. They all pay taxes, too, to the bus system. And some of them, in order to get the bus way up the hill or out of the way, it just isn't. It doesn't make any economic sense. and the good folks in Aspen, Colorado, almost all of whom are very, very liberal, but they sat down and said, should we be sending these empty buses way out of the way to pick up one or two people or no people, because you don't really know who in advance is going to be there, very much like we currently run our bus system here in Muskegon, or is there a better way of doing it? And they came up with a very simple answer. They said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to cut back on these empty routes, and we've got a very active and very professional group of companies that are running taxi cabs, and we will subsidize the taxi cabs who go provide the service on the very low route areas, or the low occupancy areas. And so the way they did it was people would pay $1 each way for a taxi cab that would come right to your house. And then, of course, you'd pay a tip if you were so inclined. And the county would pay the difference between what the real cab ride would be and your $1. And if it were 3 people, it'd be $3. As it turns out, of course, the cab company makes a profit, pays taxes on that profit, is able to employ people, and they were able to cover all of these routes with all of these skiers, get them from the condos and the apartments and the hotels to the base of the mountain at about 1/10 the cost that they were spending running a full bus system. So if in fact there is a need to pick people up in rural areas, there is a way to address that almost for sure it would be a fraction of the amount of money that we're going to be spending here in Muskegon. And yet our county commissioners have not once had an open hearing, nor have they presented any information showing that there's a demand for these services, or what these services would cost on a per capita basis. They've never done that. They refuse to do it. Their simple answer is it doesn't cost us anything, which is an absolute misstatement of the facts, because they have to pay for the benefits and pensions and pay and everything else, maintenance and insurance and all sorts of things of these buses. They do get federal subsidies for a significant portion of it, but there still is an expense. But they don't talk about the fact that if we're buying buses, we're warehousing some buses. These 4 buses that we just bought will sit for who knows how long, and they view, just as we all here kind of agree is the wrong thing, they view that free money is free money. If we don't have to pay for it, we'll take everything we can get, even if we're going to take these buses and have them sit back. So
yeah, that's actually one of the when you sit at a county commission meeting, you can hear their code words. There's no local money involved. That's their big statement. It's coming in from outside. There's no local money.
Matt, let me ask you a question about this, because the concept of no local money and free money, a lot of folks who are on the political left, most of them who are special interest groups representing public employee unions or companies that sell products and services to government. But aside from them, how do the citizens that you are affiliated with in Occupy Muskegon view this concept of free money, spend it as long as we can get it?
Well, there's really no such thing as free money, because somebody's paying the bill somewhere.
Whoa, well, that's a wacky concept.
We have a situation in this country to where, unfortunately, those of us listening to this program will probably see it in their lifetime, to where the dollar just becomes worthless. It's almost there now, but they keep trying to, and successfully, engendering one more upturn, one more upturn, one more upturn. But it'll come to a point where nobody's going to want to take the dollar, and we've already seen that in some of the European countries. The euro decided that the European Union formed their coalition and developed what they call the euro currency, and that took away from the dollar. And when we went to war with Saddam Hussein, one of the reasons we went was because he was no longer going to take dollars for his oil, and gee, we couldn't have something like that. So it's a common sense thing. If you keep if you keep debiting your billfold, pretty soon it's going to be empty. And unfortunately, Uncle Sam has a printing press and can just go ahead and print up money willy-nilly.
Well, the folks, I guess we call them Uncle Bob Skolnick and Uncle John Snyder and Uncle Marv Engel and Uncle Ken Mahoney, they seem to have their own printing press, because while they don't have a printing press per se, they have the ability to borrow money without having to prove any way of paying it back. And, of course, that's gotten Muskegon County at having one of the highest per capita bonded debt of any counties in the state. Our bonded debt, I believe, is 10 times the bonded debt that the citizens of Ottawa County have to bear. So, well, wait, let's change it a little bit, because you just gave an example, and we commented a little bit about what I believe is just wasted assets on the Muskegon area transit system, which, by the way, I think is a decent system. It's a system that ought to be continued, certainly within certain areas. But if you're going to expand it and you're going to be continuing to run it at a massive deficit, totally dependent on outside monies, at some point it will collapse. And then those people who really do need it will not have it available to them. And I think that's a terrible tragedy.
Well, Jim, you have to go ahead and run this bus system using a little bit of common sense. Now,
it's not being done at this point.
In Grand Haven, it's called Harbor Transit, and the way that works is the citizen calls the bus company and says, look, I need a ride at such and such a time, and the bus company goes ahead and picks you up and takes you where you want to go. Now, I realize Grand Haven's smaller than Muskegon, but something could be worked out along those lines on a practical basis, and the bus company knows how many people get on the bus at which time and on which route. You just go ahead and tailor it to where when you pick up somebody on this route, the bus gets filled up, takes them where they need to go, and goes ahead and goes through the route again. Some routes might not have every hour service. It might be every other hour. It's a common sense thing, and it's something that you work your scheduling out accordingly.
Well, let me stop you there, because you said something that is almost anathema to the leadership in our county, and that is a common sense. And I don't mean that to be funny. There has never been an analysis done, or certainly publicly made available, that analyzed the routes that our elected county commissioners have looked at and said, hey, look, we are really happy. We've seen all these routes. We've seen how many people are on the routes and how many are being picked up. They do not have that information, so that when they go out to vote on purchasing a new bus or doing an expansion, they don't even have the basic common sense information to make an informed decision, and they don't appear to be interested in getting it because they've never asked for it. I know that myself and others have said, before you spend this money, could you please show us the necessity for it?
Now, you're absolutely right in everything you said there, but the scary thing is that the Muskegon bus system actually relies more on their fares than a lot of the other bus systems in the state of Michigan.
Well, that's true, but it's still an absolutely tiny, tiny amount. And as a matter of fact, let me tell you the dirty little secret on fares. When I was riding the buses for an entire week, I only saw 2 people in the entire time ever put money in. I was one of them. It was 30 cents each way because I'm a geezer, or it might be 60 cents, 30 or 60 cents, because I'm a senior seasoned citizen, and one other person. Everyone else had bus passes. Now, I asked one of the people where they got their bus pass, and it was provided to them in one case by a church and in another case by their social service person. What's happened is we're playing with money here. The county allocates money to various organizations to go buy bus passes, hides it from us, and then counts the money as revenue and says, aren't we wonderful? We've got all these free. We're doing all this wonderful stuff. I've never once saw a bus driver scrutinize a bus pass. They flash them. I believe you have the picture on them, but the bus driver is really not interested. He's certainly not going to get into they're not paid enough, nor are they trained well enough to look at the bus passes and say, wait a minute, that's expired, or that's not you, or whatever. People kind of flip them and they get in. There's this double counting of monies. Folks, don't believe it for a minute. And even if it was, let's just say for a moment that they did have a higher percentage of other bus outfits. It's still a pittance. It's an absolute pittance because there's so few people. I mean, if everybody paid full price, forget a pass. If everybody paid full price, there's not enough to keep a tiny little Yugo, Yugo car.
Winter is right around the corner, and it's Warren Miller time. This is Johnny Mosley, and it's time to get tickets to Warren Miller's 63rd ski and snowboard film, Flow State, where the mountain meets the mind. Enter Warren Miller's Flow State with winter's finest athletes and reach the top of the world's most striking peaks in Austria, Japan, Switzerland, Alaska, and beyond. But you won't catch ski or snowboard action of this magnitude anywhere else. So get in the zone and buy your Warren Miller tickets today. Tickets are on sale now. Get them before they're gone. Check warrenmiller.com for information.
MC Sports and Rock 101.7 bring Warren Miller's Flow State to the Frauenthal Theater Saturday, November 24th at 8 p.m. Attendees get a free lift ticket from Timber Ridge and a chance to win ski gear from MC Sports and trips to Michigan's best resorts. Tickets are on sale now at the Frauenthal Ticket Office, MC Sports, or charge online at startickets.com.
I got a real big problem with television.
How's that?
Too much great stuff on TV, and my DVR can't store it all. So I'm writing angry letters to the TV people.
Why don't you just get Dish? Their HD DVR, the Hopper, lets you record up to 2,000 hours of shows, even if they're on at the same time.
Oh, yeah?
And that's not all. You can also play back all your favorite shows in up to 4 different rooms of the house at the same time.
So I can record all of our favorite shows?
Yep.
And watch all my favorite shows whenever I want?
Yep.
In any room?
Yep.
So what am I going to do with all these stamps?
You could write a happy letter to Dish.
Dear Dish, thanks to you, I have a brand new stamp collection.
Store 2,000 hours of your favorite shows with the Hopper from Dish. Visit Dish.com to learn more today. Limited time offer subject to change without notice. Hopper available with qualifying HD packages. Hardware and programming sold separately. Other restrictions apply. Visit Dish.com for details.
Have you ever dreamed of working for yourself, owning your own business, and having the freedom to work when you want? We're the marketing arm of a $3 billion energy company, immediately looking to find a few entrepreneurs or business owners who can recognize a great opportunity. Rarely are there offerings like this to make a minimal investment with the ability to create significant earnings and wealth. Learn more about becoming a part of our team at ejobswestmichigan.com. We provide the training and support to help you succeed. What are you waiting for? ejobswestmichigan.com.
Detroit, Michigan, Motortown. Motown. The sounds of Detroit are on iHeartRadio. Groove to the Motor City's finest, Smokey.
Smokey was given to me by my favorite uncle,
Stevie.
The ideas come from experience.
Marvin.
I like all the people at Motown.
Diana.
Everybody was trying to outdo everybody.
And more. Check out the sounds of Detroit on iHeartRadio or at iHeartRadio.com.
240. That's 1-800-463-9240. 1-800-463-9240.
The Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090. WKBZ.
Well, you're dead.
And EyeOnMuskegon is back. And I neglected to say that if you're interested in contacting us, we are a call-in show. Give us a call, 231-830-3109. Love to hear from you. Love to get you on the radio. I will mention, in case I don't have time before the end of the show, since we got a lot of interesting ideas floating around here, we will be doing a show on the next Sunday, which is the Sunday following Thanksgiving. It will not be a live show. We're going to record it tomorrow. And we will have Representative Dave Agema, among others, on that show. So we'll be recording that show, but it will be a new show, and it'll be a timely show. And we're looking forward to hearing from you next week. But do remember that we will not be able to take your calls next week, but we will be able to take them today. 231-830-3109. And Matt, you wanted to jump on something about the buses and transportation and things of that sort.
Well, buses have to be used on a common sense basis, and it depends on who needs one and when and where they need it. Now, one of the things the city of Muskegon just did was have an idiotic ballot proposal where they had two ballot proposals. One had to pass for the other one to pass. And one of them passed. It was for senior citizen transit. That passed.
That was to continue what they had currently had in place.
But the other one was to fund it. And they said, yeah, we want it, but we don't want additional taxes to pay for it. So what that does is it sends a message to the city, and it says, okay, find the money somewhere else. You need to prioritize. We want senior transit. We just don't want more taxes.
That doesn't sound too bad to me.
That sounds great. I think the citizens of Muskegon did a fine thing there. One of the things that a member in our group came up with, he's from Massachusetts. He moved to him and his wife and son moved here several years ago. There's a program out in, I believe it's Portland, Maine, and what they do for senior transit is they have volunteer drivers who go ahead and drive the seniors around, and then the volunteer drivers earn credits, so when they get to be a senior citizen, they don't have to pay for the service.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a cool idea.
So it's something that this is how you effectuate positive change. When you come up with a problem, you have to go ahead and find a solution that works.
Well, now, has that solution been presented to the city of Muskegon, and is anybody there interested in expanding that?
We've discussed it at public meetings, and it's a question of, okay, we can only discuss it. Government has to go ahead and put it into play. And what we're proposing is that instead of just limiting senior transit to the city of Muskegon, it should be basically anywhere in Muskegon County where somebody would need a ride, some senior citizen. And the program works great. So
don't we have something, though, very similar to that called a taxi company? I mean, taxis, if they're well run, they employ people, they provide a service, a very reasonable service. And in fact, if they're well run, they make profits, and they add to the tax system. They are taxed on those profits. Are we've decided that transportation is now essentially a basic human right?
Well, no, this wouldn't be something that would be subsidized through your tax dollar. This would be something to where it's privately run. It's not something the government gets involved in per se. It's not a government
Who would
function.
pay for it then if it's senior transit?
Well, it's paid for by it's a volunteer group.
Oh, okay. Your idea is purely the volunteer.
It's a volunteer group.
Who would provide the vehicles?
The volunteer that drives.
Oh, really?
And there's I'm not exactly sure what the very, very detailed specifics are, because we just started studying the proposal ourselves. But the idea is, look, you've got to be able to explore these things, put it on the table, discuss it, and see where it goes. One of the topics that, as far as the buses are concerned, is that there's talk about trying to get a bus from Muskegon to Grand Haven. It's not that far away now. They're only about 3-4 miles from Grand Haven. Maybe running a bus from Muskegon to Grand Rapids. This would not be in competition with Greyhound, because Greyhound only leaves twice a day, and it'd only be from Muskegon to Grand Rapids and back, and then another bus from Muskegon to Whitehall.
What evidence do you have that there's a demand for any one of these three?
Well, here's the thing. You have to go ahead and do some, I'll say, polling of the community to see if they want it.
A business would do that.
A business would do that. And then it's like, okay, let's try this on a 90-day period, a trial period, and let's see how many riders we get. If we don't get riders, we're going to stop it.
Yeah, but businesses do it the other way around. A business says, look, I'm going to start let's say, a route from Muskegon to Whitehall. They're going to say, look, I know it's going to take a good long time, probably 6 months or longer, before we ever come close to breaking even at whatever rates they're going to charge, because it just takes that long for a new store to generate traffic, for a new restaurant to generate traffic, in any new service. So what they would do is they'll build that into their business plan. The folks who built all the cable television cables and towers and all, they knew it was going to take time before they ultimately were able to be have a cash flow that would cover their expenses. I can't imagine 90 days would be enough to develop anything like this.
It could be longer than that. I'm just throwing it out on the table for discussion. It's like if you're going to start something,
but if it makes sense, wouldn't it make sense to encourage a business person to do it? I mean, it's pretty clear that the people in Muskegon County, for instance, the people who are running our bus system, Jim Coons, who runs the bus system, and the county commissioners who support it, it's pretty clear they're not doing certainly a fiscally sustainable job. They don't seem to have the same mindset that you've got about thinking out of the box, about making sure that the most important part of the service, which is, I agree with that, the most important part of the service is servicing those folks who've chosen to live within the confines of the city and where the apartments are located and that type of thing, maybe even going out to the college. But I'd say giving more power, more money to the folks who've proven time and time again that they're really very poor the judges of how to spend and invest.
Government always is.
Well, it really is.
When government gets into a situation where it does something that the private sector could do, it generally doesn't do it near as well and it always does it for a much, much greater cost.
Well, we could talk with you guys forever. We've got I want to talk about one quick thing, and then we'll talk about how people can get really involved. But Susie Hughes, who is one of the newly elected county commissioners, and we'll soon have 9 county commissioners. Susie will be one of them. She was elected in Muskegon Township, and she has decided to do something out of the box. Not surprisingly, she's a very creative and intelligent woman, and she's going to be meeting with the is it the superintendent, supervisor, David Kieft. They're meeting on the first Monday of every month with constituents, with folks who live out there or who are interested in county and township government. First Monday of every month at Mr. B's Pancake House, and in this case they'll be meeting at 8 in the morning. Now, it seems to me that's exactly what we need. The other county commissioners historically have kept away from any type of communication with constituents. They actually ban the responding to questions when citizens attend these meetings. What do you think about this Susie Hughes's move, and how do we get the rest of these 9 commissioners? Some of them are brandy new, or at least like Charles Nash, who is new this time. He was a county commissioner a few years back, and we've got Terry Sabo. How do we get more input? How do we get these nice ideas, these out of the box ideas, into the minds of these folks who've so protected themselves from ideas?
The problem with the county commissioners is that some of them, not all of them, but some of them are simply unresponsive to the will of the people. Now, what Eric and I did for the primary election and the general election...
By Eric, you mean Eric Rodoff, right here?
We interviewed candidates for county commission. Now, most of the time...
So the Tea Party and the Occupy Muskegon
got together and decided, look, this is something we should do for the community so the people have an idea of who it is that's running for county commissioner, what they stand for, and we ran the interviews very, very open and kind of like a free-flow style to where the candidate could say whatever they wanted to say. We didn't edit anything. Their interviews are on our website.
And you videoed these.
And we videoed them. And the idea was, okay, look, you're running it. I looked at it from 2 standpoints. Number one, informing the community of who the county commissioner is, what they're all about, and giving a candidate the opportunity to say what they want to say in the style and method they want to say it in without being edited. Because anybody that's running for public office can't stand being edited and having what they say taken out of context for the editor's purposes. We wanted it to be useful for the county commissioners as well as the community.
I totally agree with that. And let me just interrupt here, because I was running for office at the time, and I was interviewed. And you asked some, I thought, probing and tough questions, but it was nice to be able to give a clear answer rather than being cut off in mid-sentence.
But here's the thing the one thing that really, really irked me. Some of these people refused to be interviewed. Now, why would you want to refuse to be interviewed when all you're going to get is questions that are going to be pertinent to your office? They're not going to be attack questions. They're not going to be questions that are going to put you on the spot. It's like just a question. Do you want a new jail? How do we pay for a new jail? What are some of the issues facing the county? They're open-ended questions. You can answer them however you want to answer. When I have commissioners that don't return phone calls, and I made sure to call each one of them twice, and refuse to be interviewed, that tells me they have a secret hidden agenda, or they don't want to have themselves publicly committed to a position. They want to go ahead and be wishy-washy on it so they can take whatever stand they want to take when the time comes.
We have six returning county commissioners. Are any of them in this category? Any that refuse to be interviewed?
Well, let's see. We have
Ken Mahoney.
Ken Mahoney refused to be interviewed.
All right, and we've got Bob Skolnick.
Bob Skolnick refused to be interviewed.
All right, we've got Marv Engel.
Marv Engel was interviewed.
Okay, good for Marv. We've got
Derzinski was interviewed.
Derzinski was interviewed. We got Rilestein Wilkins.
Rilestein had no opposition, so we didn't interview her.
Okay. And let's see. Was there anybody else there?
Cross did not interview with us.
Ben Cross.
Oh, Ben Cross. Yes, he would have been the other one.
He didn't return phone calls.
Okay, so half of the returning commissioners just flat out said I'm not interested in communicating
Right.
with you people.
With the public. That's what this is. It's not about us. That's what this is important. What we did with these interviews was not about Occupy Muskegon. It's not about the Muskegon Tea Party. It's about the candidate and giving the candidate the chance to say what they want to say to a group, so the group can go ahead. In this case, the group is the people that vote, can make an informed decision. Well, okay, we had 6 people running for circuit court judge in the primary. We only were able to interview 3 of them. The other 3 either turned us down. Out of the 3 we interviewed, 2 of them made it to the general election.
So they were interested in telling the public, telling the people what they stood for.
Right.
Geez, what a concept.
Yeah, and that's the idea behind it. It was like, okay, now the general public and who really interviews circuit court judge candidates, district court judge candidates, probate court judge candidates? Nobody.
Well, the Chronicle most certainly didn't do much about it, which is, I think, unfortunate.
Well, here's the problem with the Chronicle as well as the other media. They go ahead, they get a candidate in a room, they ask a couple questions, and they edit everything. Or if they get you on a radio show or a TV program, well, you've got, even in a public debate, well, you've got 2 minutes to respond. Well, you know what? If I need to take 5, I'm taking 5 minutes to respond. That's why all of our interviews lasted between 30 and 45 minutes, because we told the candidates going in, use your own words, take the time you need to take.
Well, you two are citizen activists, community organizers, if you will. And we do have, even though folks may be focusing on 2014, we do have a bunch of elections coming up next year. We'll probably have proposals and initiatives and millage votes during 2013. Are you planning on getting together again? Was this mutually satisfying to both of you guys?
We've opened up communications so that we will ask each other, both groups, if there's anything that we have in common. And when we have things in common, we will work together on it, because we don't hate each other. We might disagree on some things, but on some things we agree with. And where we agree, we work together. We're more effective that way.
I know that I've seen the 2 groups, the folks that members of the Muskegon Tea Party and members of Occupy Muskegon, show up at county commission meetings and ask simple questions, and I was somewhat shocked, actually, to see the support that each group gave each other. There are other groups out there. There's the Letters Are Better group, which was actually, I think, one of the more successful citizen groups. It was a small group that wanted to make sure that the folks who were imprisoned in the Muskegon County Jail were able to get letters rather than just postcards, and they challenged the county sheriff and the county board, who opposed them at every level, and ultimately they won. Are there any other? Oh, no, you're saying they didn't. I thought that they did win this. Oh, interestingly. Okay. Well, then hopefully they will keep up their view, so at least there will be some type of discussion about it. Okay, we're going to coming up to a break, and what I'd like to focus on for the rest of the show here is how citizens can get more involved with your 2 groups, maybe with others, and how we can affect some real change here. Because, folks, Muskegon County is surrounded by successful counties, and the most important thing I think that we've got to address here in the county is the fact that businesses don't think Muskegon is a good place to be in, and that bodes very poorly. So we'll be back after this break.
Tom Sanaki, and it's polka time, and a perfect time to gather your family together for a good, clean, wholesome family show every Saturday and Sunday mornings right here on the Talk of Muskegon with the Polka Melodies. News Talk 1090 WKBZ Muskegon, WOOD HD2 Muskegon, and NewsTalk1090.com. Come on.
It's polka time, polka time, polka time, polka time. Happy polka melody.
This is the week, and Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC is the place. Cash for Clunkers is back, and your clunker is worth $2,500 off a new purchase. If you don't have a clunker, we'll buy your trade and pay you $2,500 over Blue Book value. Plus, every vehicle in Benton's massive 20-acre motor mall has been priced at a penny over invoice for 1 week only, with huge discounts and savings. Drive the new 2013 Chevy Silverado 4x4, $189 a month. A 2013 Malibu, $109 a month. Or a 2012 Chevy Cruze, get 0% for 60 months. months. Or a 2013 Chevy Equinox, just $179 a month. Plus, get up to $2,500 for your clunker or $2,500 over Blue Book value for your trade. Plus, you can buy at GM pricing and a penny over invoice for 1 week only. Shop the largest selection of pre-owned on the Lakeshore. Over 400 vehicles to choose from. 2012 Chevy Impala starting at $14,900. Hurry, this giant sales event is for 1 week only. It's where Michigan shops. Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon.
You know when you're watching a TV show and those things come on?
Commercials.
Yeah, that's it, commercials. Sure glad I can skip those now that I've got the Hopper from Dish. There's a special feature called Auto Hop. Lets me skip right over those,
commercials.
That's it, commercials. I really wish I had one of those things you eat. Goes in your mouth with meat inside.
A hot dog.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing compliments watching commercial-free TV like a hot dog.
Watch commercial-free TV with the Hopper, the new whole home HD DVR from Dish. Visit Dish.com to learn more today. Only available for playback of select HD primetime shows and must be enabled by customer. Restrictions apply. Visit Dish.com for details.
A message from Liam Neeson, Orlando Bloom, Lawrence Fishburne, Salma Hayek, Mia Farrow, and Taya Leone.
They do not have to die, but they do. 24,000 children every day.
They die for reasons we can prevent.
Like not getting enough food or medicine or clean, safe water to drink.
24,000 children every day.
But we are gaining ground. A generation ago, twice as many children were dying.
Still, 24,000 every day?
They do not have to die, but they do.
They die because they are young and vulnerable.
They die because through no fault of their own, they are poor.
24,000 children.
24,000 children.
24,000 children every day? My name is Taya Leone.
My name is Salma Hayek.
My name is Orlando Bloom.
My name is Mia Farrow.
My name is Lawrence Fishburne.
My name is Liam Neeson, and I believe that number should be 0. Believe in 0.
Join the effort. Visit unicefusa.org.
I can solve difficult problems for a Fortune 500 company.
I can run a successful business.
I can put my military experience to work for your company.
I can manage your home improvements.
I can publicize your message.
I can teach your children.
But I can't put my skills to work for your organization
if I'm not given the opportunity.
Nearly 50 million Americans have disabilities. Capitalize on their talents with employment practices that benefit everyone. Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. The conflict between the Israeli military and Hamas on the Gaza border shows no signs of letting up.
Violence continues to escalate, with all worries, of course, about whether or not Israel will conduct a ground invasion, which is why the Arab League is now saying that they want to send a delegation here. There's a great deal of effort being put into pressurizing the Israelis.
Sky News' Sam Kiley reporting in Gaza City. President Obama starting his 3-day tour of Southeast Asia today.
After a decade of focusing on the war against terror, the president says we kind of lost our focus on trade and investment in this region, and also are allowing China to make strategic and diplomatic advantages or advances here in this region.
Fox's Wendell Goller traveling with the president. The president next goes to Burma. He'll be the first sitting American president to visit the country. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Good morning. Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast. Areas of patchy fog early today, then a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 55. Southeast winds 5 to 10. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 37. Still southeast winds 5 to 10. It'll be overcast tomorrow with a high of 54. And once again, southeast winds 5 to 10. For Tuesday, starting off with clouds and then sunshine later on and a high of 51. Keeping you informed, News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the Talk of Muskegon, and then sunshine later on and a high of 51. Keeping you informed, News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the Talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dead a much.
The dadgum government, folks, they're taking our money, and sadly, they're taking our jobs, because if you have a government that just spends and thinks that there's a never-ending amount of free cell phones and money trees out there, businesses at some point figure out that there's something wrong going on. And here at Eye on Muskegon, we are trying to focus on some of the government foibles and some ways that we can make our government more accountable. And I said before the break that Muskegon County's biggest problem, and there's certainly many, but the problem that we face here is that businesses in general have viewed Muskegon as a county where they don't really want to move to nor expand to. As a matter of fact, more often than not, we're hearing that they've decided that Muskegon's a nice place for them to say goodbye to. And we are surrounded by, don't get me wrong, I'm not crazy about the Republican Party, but we are surrounded by counties that have voted Republican, and in fact, most of them are growing and having a fair amount of success at creating private sector jobs and keeping their books balanced. And to me, that's the biggest problem that we have in Muskegon, is that we have an environment that is essentially dependent upon getting government grants, hiring more grant writers rather than making sure that we are paying down our debt and making investments in buses without really even having any need or anything along those lines. Now, we know that you two folks, the Muskegon Tea Party and Occupy Muskegon, have members, a fair number of members between the two of you, that are interested in affecting change here in Muskegon. What I'd like to do in the few minutes that we've got remaining in the show here is give information, those who are listening to the show, give information of how they can get in contact with you, how will they be welcomed when if they decide to go to one of your meetings. And I would like to add that if you are inclined to get involved at any level, I don't care if you want more windmills, which I've made it clear I'm not big on windmills, but if you're interested in getting involved at any level in Muskegon County government, I am at Carmen's Cafe in downtown Muskegon almost every Tuesday and Thursday. I will not be this week at all because there are no county commission meetings, and of course we've got Thanksgiving, but the week after I will be there Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm at Carmen's from 2 to 3:15. I'm more than excited to meet with anyone and everyone who's interested in county, state, municipal government, and talk about what's happening at our county level, which is probably my expertise, but to talk about how you can get involved. So that's one way to do it, and I've been very thankful to have folks from the Tea Party and from Occupy Muskegon show up, and we've had really some wonderful conversations, and of course you can grab a cup of coffee or have a late lunch or whatever, but keep that in mind. Carmen's Cafe, right downtown Muskegon. That's on the corner of Clay and Jefferson, starting a week after this. But I'll start with Matt. You've got Occupy Muskegon. If someone says, I like what I'm hearing from Matt, and I'd like to get more involved, how do they contact you, and when do you have meetings, and how does someone who has an interest in making Muskegon County a better place, how do they get involved?
We meet once a week, and the best way to contact us is through one of our websites is Facebook, and we're Occupy Muskegon MI on Facebook. And we also have another website, occupymuskegon.net, and we also are coming up with our own news service, OM News. So you can go take a look at occupymuskegon.net/OM News, occupymuskegon.net, and then on Facebook, Occupy Muskegon MI. So that's the idea behind our group, is that we welcome everybody that wants to work together to effectuate change. We look at our group as being the people.
Where do you meet?
We meet at various locations. It just depends on sometimes at somebody's house, sometimes at a conference room. It just depends on what we can get that week, and it depends on how many people we have that we need to meet.
I remember back when the Muskegon Tea Party was meeting twice a week or twice a month, and that became actually just too many meetings for our particular needs. And so we let people know that there were one meeting that was a little more important than the other, and ultimately they shrunk down to just the one meeting a month. Are there any, somebody who's interested in getting more information about Occupy Muskegon, and they show up at a meeting where there's two people or maybe even no people on a particular night, how do they what's the best way for someone who's maybe a little timid but would like to get involved? Should they pick up the phone, or do you post these things on three websites? It's a lot of places for people to be searching for.
Well, just start on the website, and we have our meetings generally have approximately a dozen people plus or minus every week.
Okay, and you post them on your website. So what's the one website that they ought to go to first, the most important one?
I'd go to if it was me, I'd go to the Facebook site, Occupy Muskegon MI, and then, but the other one, OccupyMuskegon.net. They're not that. It's not that hard to. That's not that hard not to remember.
And so you've got all that posted there,
right? We've got all that information out there, and we welcome anybody that wants to go ahead and get involved, or anybody that has a problem they'd like to bring to our attention that we're not aware of. That's how we got aware of the Burgess Norton situation, and that's something that that's caused all those homeowners in that area quite a bit of property loss, real property loss, because how are you going to sell your house if it's got groundwater contamination caused by a company that is no longer in business?
And as Eric can testify to, and perhaps yourself, people who do bring issues like that to the county board are essentially told we can't do anything to help you. There's no interest there. So we need to organize in order to get something changed. Eric, let's talk a little bit about Muskegon Tea Party.
Well, the Muskegon Tea Party meets the fourth Tuesday of the month at Whitlow's restaurant. We meet at 6:30, although most of us, there's a number of us that come at 5:30 for dinner first.
Okay, eating right there at Whitlow's, and then you just go
right there at Whitlow's. We're in the part with the bar back there. All you have to do is ask one of the waitresses, and they'll point you to the table for the tea party.
Okay, and you're open to anybody who walks in the door?
We're open to everybody. We even our last meeting, we actually had Occupy Muskegon. We invited them to come in.
Okay.
And
now you have a fair number of pretty high-profile speakers also. I know that you had some of the Supreme Court justices as speakers not long ago. What do we got? The fourth Tuesday. We're done for November, are we not?
No, it's the 26th.
Okay.
Sorry, 27th.
The 27th. Okay, that'd be next week then, a week from Tuesday.
Yeah,
okay.
Right after Thanksgiving.
Do you have a schedule, any agenda set up for that particular meeting?
Not that particular meeting.
Okay, but 6:30 on the fourth Tuesday of every month.
Yeah.
And if you're inclined, there's dinner beforehand. Yeah. How about a website or a Facebook or a way to get in touch with you?
MuskegonTeaParty.com. We'll take you to, I believe right now it takes it to the current Facebook group that we use.
Okay.
And chairman at MuskegonTeaParty.com will get an email to me.
Chairman at MuskegonTeaParty.com. That's an email address.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a little confused on the first one. Is the first one a Facebook the site, or is it an email address? Or is it a website address?
It's a website address that points to the Facebook group.
Okay, all right. I think what I'll try to do is if you folks can both send me an email with the specifics, we'll post them on EyeOnMuskegon.com, so there'll be links right there so that people can have them, and if there's a phone number, then we can have that also. And I am in touch with you folks, both of you guys, so you can always contact me. And let me give you mine, because easy to get in touch with me, of course, is EyeOnMuskegon.com, and that's EYE on Muskegon, all one word. But you can email me at EyeOnMuskegon@gmail.com, or you can give me a phone call. And my number is 231-421-4409. That's different from, of course, the studio number. But if you want to give me a call, 421-4409, you can contact me too, because I know a lot of people are interested in getting involved, and they're just, people don't like to walk into a room where they don't know anybody, and that's a little tough. That's why Carmen's is nice, or getting in contact with you folks, and I hope anybody listening here today will know that they're going to have some friends at these organizations, and if you've got an issue, in particular, I liked what Matt said. You found out about the Burgess Norton situation because somebody out there gave a call. I know that Eric, you've gotten some communication that got your interest in this land bank fiasco, which, from my understanding of it is a fiasco, and you've been actively working on it and attempting to gather the facts, both of you folks, to gather the facts that we can use to present to the various elected officials, and hopefully they will work on it. And if not, let's understand something. We have a lot of tools available. We are depending on the goodwill and the hard work and the interest in doing what's best for the communication, or for the county and the communities that they live in. We're depending on that from those who we elect. But sadly, too often it's the special interests, be it the unions or the particular corporations that are getting special monies, as we've seen this statewide. Michigan has got fully half of all of the bankrupt environmental companies, the solar and windmill companies that have gone belly up. Fully half of them are in the state of Michigan. And so we depend on our elected officials to do the right thing, but if they don't do the right thing, we have options. And, of course, campaign 2013, campaign 2014 began last week. But I know that I've heard some, at least at the county level, I've heard some people talking about recalling a or some of the county commissioners, one or two or maybe even more, in part because immediately after their election, there were some votes that were really pretty outrageous, or at least viewed by outrageous by a lot of folks. So the $1 million bonuses, the 4 buses that are going to be sitting empty, some of the other things. So there is a possibility of recalling these folks. Go ahead, Eric.
With a recall, according to the state law, we have to wait 6 months before.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We start working right today. You can't file the papers for 6 months, but you start today. The person who waits gets zapped, and that's the key. I don't know if there's anybody who's out there planning a recall, but I do know this: you don't wait 6 months. You get started as soon as you think that there are votes being made or there are policies being made by those elected officials, at whatever level they are, and then you file on day 6 months and 1 day in order to let those elected officials know that you're looking at them. I think it's interesting that we have a brand newly elected county commissioner in Susie Hughes who's already said, look, I'm going to go out and start interacting with folks. Alan Jagger very sadly lost an election to an otherwise good guy, Jim Derazinski, but Alan Jagger lost, and we're really going to miss having somebody who was willing to stand tall, who was willing to communicate with the citizens, and willing to ask the questions publicly that we're not allowed as citizens to get answers to. And I would just hope that we have these tools. Sadly, we may have to threaten politicians with recall. Now, you folks at Occupy Muskegon had a great thing on one of your websites where you had a video of, I believe it was County Commissioner Marv Engel who saw the videoing of a meeting as a threat. He said, well, if you're going to threaten me with this, which, of course, the meeting was just being videoed. And then when presented with the proof, or presented with the accusation that he had called it a threat, denied it, right?
Well, we're not interested in threatening anybody per se. The idea is, okay, look, you've got the elected officials and the power structure have to be in touch with the people, and unfortunately, they're not anymore. And we have a situation where the medical marijuana issue passed in Michigan, but the establishment was against it. We have a situation where the Michigan Civil Rights Initiative was passed by the people in Michigan. The power structure still can't stand that, so they took it to court. It was reversed in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals last week. We had a situation where we wanted concealed carry, but the establishment couldn't stand that. Here's what the establishment is trying to do to us. There's a website you can go to, finalcall.com. Finalcall.com.
We'll try to put that on EyeOnMuskegon also.
It's Louis Farrakhan's website.
Oh,
now,
good Lord.
When you go ahead and get on that website, look for the Willie Lynch letter. Willie Lynch letter.
Okay.
And what the Willie Lynch letter does, it was actually written in 1712, 300 years ago, and it taught the slave owner at the time how to go ahead and keep your slave under control. 300 years later, the establishment is using the principles of the Willie Lynch letter to keep us under control.
All right, we'll get me that. We'll post it on EyeOnMuskegon.com. That's interesting, and I appreciate where both of you are coming from. Folks, give them a call. These are the folks that are going to help really affect change here in Muskegon County. Hey, don't forget, we do post the full audio of this show at EyeOnMuskegon.com on Sunday afternoons. You can listen to it on your computer or smartphone 24/7 once we get it up. All the old shows are there also. I'm on the Talkin' Muskegon show 1090 WKBZ every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 10. Hey, thanks again, Brian, Eric, Matt, the entire crew here at KBZ, all you wonderful listeners. Next week, we're going to continue the focus on the future in Michigan, and we're going to be talking with Representative Dave Agema as we look at how the defeat of the 6 propositions, the overturning of the Michigan Civil Rights Initiative, and right to work and the tax cliff will affect us here in West Michigan. So big stuff coming up. Also coming up is Polka Melodies right after we're talking. But there's another new show which I just found out about. I'd run into the gentleman. Mike Hewitt's got a show called Renegade River. Starting, well, it's been here a couple weeks, I guess, but it starts today at noon to 1 every Sunday. Show I'm going to be listening to when I get back home. So, folks, thank you for listening in. Please get in contact with us. EyeOnMuskegon.com is the website. On that website, by the way, is also the my phone number again. My email address, and we'll post the information on these 2 organizations that are really trying to have citizen involvement and make this a better community for everyone, employers, employees, citizens, old geezers who need free transportation or whatever. We're working as hard as we can. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Have a great week.
I got a real big problem with television.
How's that?
Too much great stuff on TV, and my DVR can't store it all. So I'm writing angry letters to the TV people.
Why don't you just get Dish? Their HD DVR, the Hopper, lets you record up to 2,000 hours of shows, even if they're on at the same time.
Oh, yeah?
And that's not all. You can also play back all your favorite shows in up to 4 different rooms of the house at the same time.
So I can record all of our favorite shows?
Yep.
And watch all my favorite shows whenever I want?
Yep.
In any room?
Yep.
So what am I going to do with all these stamps?
You could write a happy letter to Dish.
Dear Dish, thanks to you, I have a brand new stamp collection.
Store 2,000 hours of your favorite shows with the Hopper from Dish. Visit Dish.com to learn more today. Limited time offer subject to change without notice. Hopper available with qualifying HD packages. Hardware and programming sold separately. Other restrictions apply. Visit Dish.com for details.
This is WKBZ Muskegon and WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
PNC, CVS, and your local retailer.